Hey guys, this is Matt with Wackey Worx. This week we're gonna have Brandy. My wife. She's gonna shoot a video on the lathe here, showing you exactly how to go from beginning all the way to the end with a pin. She even has a mess up in the pin, so check that all out. She'll show you how to fix it. Stay tuned. You'll have a good one.
So we're marking the length of the tubes on this blank that I have chosen to use. And you just kind of start here at the end. Give yourself a little bit of extra wiggle room. I made this line, and then I measured this one, and I made another little mark. And because I don't use anything that is for sure straight, I use this small square, and I mark the line of where I need to cut across, and then I do the same for that side. What I'll be doing is I'll be lining up my lines with the blade, and because of the way my husband has this table set up, we'll be able to hold it square so that when we turn this on, we'll be able to push it and it'll give us a nice flat surface to work with. So what you see I'm doing is I'm lining up, and I'll pull back. As you can see in the instructions, it says I need 7mm drill bit. And I have this nice drill bit set that gives me what I need. So after I've cut these to their appropriate lengths, I take my square, and as you can see, it makes sure that it stays square, and I just mark a line, turn it, mark a line, so that I know that right here is my middle, and that's where I'll aim to put my drill bit. And as you'll see, this comes down and sits in the middle. We ordered it from Wackerle.
About one of the best pieces that we've ordered from them.
So I just loosen this so that it comes down and it lays on it. I turn this on. Now I only drill down a little bit, and I bring it up so that all these shavings will come out, because this does heat up, and what it'll do is it'll melt the plastic or the resin, and it will cause it to clog and stop this and bind it up, and that's a whole other story. What I've done here is I've taken the tubes for our pins and I've roughed up the barrel.
What'd you rough them up with?
I roughed them up with a 120 grit sandpaper. Because I don't need it to be like super rough. I just need it rough enough so that when I put the bonding agent on it, it will stick onto the blank.
Okay.
Then I rinse them off with alcohol just to get the powder off of them, because that will prevent the binder from helping it stick in the blank. All right. You already saw where it says to stick fast. That's not who this is. I just reused this bottle because it was convenient. This is actually Starbond, and which is the best, just so we're all clear.
Okay.
So what I do is I just pour the glue on it, and that I stick it in my blank. I swirl it around so it gets the glue all over the tube and in the inside of the blank, and I push it flush. I wipe off the excess with my finger, because later on when that dries, I'll get the pleasure of peeling it. So there's that one, and you can laugh all you want about that. We all know the satisfaction.
She also has debonder, by the way.
I do have debonder, just in case my fingers get stuck permanently, like you just saw I had to eat them apart, but they're fine. So there we go. And we will just wait for those to dry. I tend to let them hang over the edge while they're drying from where I stuck them in, so that if there's any excess that I miss putting, you know, wiping off, I'll leave these sitting for like 30 minutes to make sure they dry really well. I could have used the accelerator. No, I couldn't, because it never works for me with this. It always makes it harder for me. And also, then that would bind my fingers together before I could peel them. Hello? So, we'll give this 30 minutes and then we'll come right back. Okay, so now it's dry. So what you do is you should have a nice little tool like this. This is a blade. It comes with a lot of extra blades, and unless you're rough-handed, you're gonna be fine. But you're gonna take it and you're gonna do this. Not only does it, when you do this, you're taking off any rough edges from where you cut it from before, but you're also hollowing this out so that if any glue was built up on here, it gets rid of it. Because if you still have glue on here, you're gonna have a rough time getting it to slide on your mandrel. Okay? So what we do now is we have this mandrel. They come in different sizes. This one is a 7. It is my preferred mandrel, simply because I don't have problems with it. And we're going to leave it at that. Other people are going to come through and other people are going to tell you about the other mandrels. Please tell me about the other mandrels. If you've got a good way to use them, I want to hear about it. But every time I've ever tried to use them, I have no luck. Okay, so one of the main things you need to know is that when you're putting your pieces, your blanks on your mandrel to turn them, is that you're going to need these. You're going to need bushings. In this case, this is a 7mm bushing. It's your basic bushing, because the pin that I'm using is just straight up a 7mm. It doesn't have special bushings. So you've got these, and you're going to put it on there so that you have space in between your blanks. You probably have questions about the other bushings and how that works. Well, that's not what this video is about, because that's not the kind of pin we're doing here. So this is the one we're using. So I make sure that I have my bushings separating it, and as you can see, there's one to separate it between the locking nut and between each other, and then between this that I use to put pressure on the bushings to hold the blanks tight enough so that when I turn, they don't free spin. See, that's not free spinning. I'm actually having to put a lot of effort into doing that, as well as turning the wheel. Okay, so that's on there. Fantastic. Also, there's going to be people who don't use this because they use this. This is a mandrel saver. I'm sure there are going to be people, my husband says it to me all the time, why do you use this if you've got a mandrel saver? Because I'll show you what the mandrel saver does. It's supposed to save your mandrel. Okay, exactly like it sounds. So you push it in there, it sticks right up against your bushings. It'll turn, and this turns freely so that everything goes. I don't like using it like that. It doesn't work well for me. I haven't in the past haven't been very successful using it like that, so I don't use it like that. Instead, I use this, and you can see where I use it because the mandrel saver goes onto it and it's slowly stripping it away. But I can always buy more of these, and I like it, so I use it. To me, it gives the adequate pressure that I need consistently, so that's what I do. So anyway, I put it on there. I use this and I lock it down. Now, look, I'm 5'3". My husband will tell you I'm 5'2". Either way, I'm a big girl, but I'm also just 45. And although I am strong like bull, I can be pretty weak sometimes. So I just do it as hard as I can, and then I turn this until it gives a nice resistance on this. And then I get ready, I'm setting up. I move my banjo where I like it. And then I move my tool rest up just a little bit. And then I lock it down. And then I move my banjo again until I'm a little bit closer. I don't necessarily think this is absolutely where the this will be and when I start turning, but for now it is until I pick up my tool and I start turning and feel if it's the correct spot. If it's not, then we'll adjust it. So I've already got my lathe on. I'm going to turn it to forward. We're going to let it speed up to whatever speed that I want it to, which currently is 15, 10, 15, 20. I like it a little faster because it's a pen. It's not a bowl. Don't turn a bowl at 1770 because what's going to happen is that bowl's going to break apart and it's going to all up in your face. Let's talk to Jamie about that sometime. So anyway, still 1770 is a little fast for me to start it out because I'm not sure what I'm going to need. So I'm going to turn it down. About right there looks good for me. And while it's really warming up, I'm going to go grab my face shield because safety first. Like traditional tools, which I do too. I have several sets of those, many different sizes for different things. In this case, we're just going to do a basic pen. So I'm using my carbide tool, the smaller one. And this is Aluminolite. We're using eye candy pigments. So I knew it's going to be beautiful. I chose it simply because it looked fantastic. All right, so we're going to get started. The design, it's totally your call. Just go willy-nilly, whatever you feel like doing. I'm just going to do basics. See how it's stopping when I put that in there? Even though my tool is facing down, and for me, because I'm so short, I have to bring it way above my chest, because this is a perfect height for me. I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. Still doing it. That tells me this right here is not tight enough. So I'll stop it. So what I do is I'll hold it and I'll twist over here using the wheel to make sure it's pretty tight. Let's try this again. Tool up in the back so that it's down. So that when we're doing it, we're not hitting here. We're hitting here across the top. That'll save your tool, and it's a sharper piece of the tool. What I tend to do is I tend to start at the edges so that I get it down to the diameter of the pen, where it'll meet up with the pen. That's what I usually do first, and then I worry about my middle and everything coming in together. I do that because I tend to have issues with busting out the pen, busting the blank apart, because I personally get too excited and aggressive with it, and I'll start pushing too hard if I don't concentrate just on those ends first, because then I'll concentrate on everything else. You know, I'll do it all. I'll make sure it's all nice and level and the edges are all gone. And then I'm like, okay, let's do the ends now so that they line up. And you can ask Matt from Wackey Worx. I will turn off the machine and leave a blank sitting on the machine for days because I'm upset with myself because I knew I was going to do it. This way I still have the patience in the beginning to do the right thing of get the diameter correct to line up with the pen when I put it together, which is very important. When I do it on this side, if I'm straight on, I tend to catch it on the side of my blade, and it catches it, and that's another reason that it might chip out and bust the blank. So I try to come over here all the way to the side of it, so I'm coming at it with the front top of the blade. so I can get to the diameter that I want without chipping it. Where it just caught, that was where my tool touched the bushing. So you got to be very careful about that and be aware of what you're doing, and it's okay if you're going to make a mistake. I do all the time, and I've been making pins for a while. Some pretty nice ones, but it still happens. So now I want to make sure I have no rough corners and start doing just the basic shape that I want so that it starts to come down to meet that diameter of the ends. And I'm being very careful with it because although those strips are exciting, you can still bust it if you're, once again, get overexcited. And I don't reach in to remove these if there's still those edges anywhere near it, because I could catch my finger and hurt myself. But these are still, even though rough, they're pretty smooth. And you just work it from here to what shape you want. And just take your time. When I first started doing this, it took me several hours just to get the shape, to teach myself patience on doing it. Now, because the actual pin, which we'll see later that we're using, is a slim pin, I like to make them a little fat in the middle. Skinny on the ends. Fat in the middle, skinny on the ends. I just think it's an attractive look for this type of pin. Yeah, I will start increasing my speed, and I just haven't thought about it because I probably would have been doing it faster by now. But I usually do bring it up to around 16, 17. Just because it's the carbide tool and it works better at that speed with such a small, I don't know, blank medium that I'm using. And you'll notice how I'm holding my tool, that my fingers aren't going past this tool rest, because if they get caught in there, I'm breaking my fingers. Or I'm hurting it so bad, I don't have a finger. And then I couldn't hold my tool. And I like to hold it from underneath, although sometimes I've done this. But if you get a real chippy type of blank and you're not wearing gloves, you're going to get a lot of damage done to your pinky. So, underneath. Back end up, front end down. Now, I will tell you that sometimes you're not going to make your own blanks. You're not going to always buy them from us, although you should. And so you're going to get an inferior product because you thought it was pretty and it's on sale and it's going to get real chippy. And you're afraid to continue because you're afraid you're going to bust it. Hey, don't be afraid to stop it right now and just continue with these or whatever bigger, your sandpaper. Just sand it down to how you want it. I've done it before because I really like the blank and I wanted to save it. And there's no shame in that game. I'm going to leave that one there because I'll have to do a lot of sanding. Not a lot, but I'll have to do sanding anyway, so it'll bring it down more. And I'm happy with that, with how thin and slim it is. And then when I go to sand it, then I'll fine tune the final shape of it. But look at those ribbons. I don't care who you are. That's exciting. Seeing all those ribbons just cover up your work and you can't see it. If you've never done this before and you're not used to it, please stop your lathe. Just stop it and take off the ribbons, because I don't want you hurting yourself. I've been doing this for a minute, so I'm not worried about it. But yeah, if you're new, please stop it. Once again, turn it back on, wait for it to get up to speed. Currently, this is going about 1740. This is a little bit more difficult for me because of my height. We keep talking about maybe taking it off the legs that, you know, are come with it and making my own. Maybe one day. It's just not a priority right now. If it really is, I'll make myself a stool and call it done until we get around to that. Currently, my priority is a desk for my remote work that I do. So it's come along very nicely. And at this point, for this type of pen, it doesn't have a designated top or designated bottom. So if you want to designate like the top and say that it's fatter up here and you know that's the top, or it's fatter here in the middle and now I'm going to use that, whatever. That's your call. This is creative. Just let your juices flow. Do whatever you want. If you're making the pen for yourself, then who cares? If you're making it to sell, somebody's going to like it. There's billions of people in the world. Have at it. All right, I'm good with those, with the way it's looking right now. So I am going to stop using my carbine tool, or, you know, cutting into it now. I'm going to clean this mess up, and then I'm going to get my stuff together to start sanding it, as well as get the finished stuff together so I can do it all at once and not have to keep getting up and going back and getting up and going back. Okay, so now you can see the rough shape of it. I know that there are lots of people who, when they do these things, they start at like 120 and they go to like 340 or 310, 320, I'm sorry, or a 240. They don't go very high. They get the basic roughness off and then they go from there. That's cool for them. I personally like to be smooth as butter before I start doing anything else. So in this case, because this right here has a roughness where my tool dragged through it, I'm starting at an 80 and I'm going to work my way up to a 600. You know, but you do you, boo. I'm doing this. Your first sandpaper that you use is very important. It's going to set the tone for the rest of it. So you're going to do the most work using that first grit that you use. And the rest of it is just shine and polish for it. Okay, so here we go. And I do sand it at the same speed, if not faster, that I turned it. Yes, I'm using a lighter touch because if you put too much pressure on it, one, you're going to build up heat in the sandpaper and it's going to burn your fingers. Two, you can actually build up heat from the resin and make it melt and deform your pen. You don't want to do that. Let's be real with each other. We don't want that. However, if you're afraid that you're going to hurt your fingers from the heat that might come through, they do have pads for these. This is like a 3-inch. We have the pads. I don't like it because I can't feel, and I'm not burning myself. It doesn't build up enough heat. I've learned how not to do that. We also have the smaller pads, you know, like these, that I'll use on occasion. But I try to reuse these 3 inches until they're not good anymore, until they don't have the roughness, because I don't want to waste money. Who wants to waste money? Not this chick. You want to make sure that your end of your blank here is flush with your bushing. And that's what I'm feeling for. And if it's not, you'll learn how to do it. Sometimes mine aren't either. And sometimes they're smaller than the bushing. Sometimes they're bigger. And I just have that up in the clip of the pen. So you learn tricks. Not everybody's perfect. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little dip in this that if this was the tip of the pen, I would leave in there so that when you write with it, your finger rests in it. But it's not. It's going to be the top of the pen, so I'm not leaving it. And I didn't realize it was still there when I stopped. Or I would have taken care of it then, but I didn't, so let's go ahead and use the sandpaper. All right, so here's a good example. I was pushing too hard because I was hoping to get that down faster so we can move on. And what did I do? I chipped it. Now, a lot of people might just throw things around and give up at this point. Don't do that. There are some fantastic products out there that will help with that. Because this is such a dark pen, I have different color options to help with this. This is alcohol, and I'm cleaning out the dust from where I was sanding it, and it dries pretty quickly. But I just blew in on it to make sure. Okay, so what I have here is a Star Bond, medium thick, black, and I'm going to put it in there. Yeah, I am. It's going to become part of my pen. Also, though, but I'm going to get the quick fix stuff so it dries fast, the accelerator. And the way I'm hearing it, Jamie Page has a 15% off coupon on a Star Bond. So how about you go check him out? We'll put the link up in the description of this video. And if we don't, that's Matt's fault because that's his job. Okay. I'm not going to do a lot. I'm going to be very gentle how I do it so it doesn't like pour out. So it just kind of dribbles out. And then I'll spray it. And then I'll turn it and I'll go to the next one. And I'll spray it. And I'm doing just enough so that it comes above this bushing so that I know that it will be flush when I go and sand it down in just a minute. I'm not going to do it right away because that actually would be a boo-boo on my part if I did it. I've done it before, and I'll explain in just a minute. So I know a lot of people think it's a cellar and it's dry. I'm sure it's dry. However, it's not really set up all the way. Let's be smart, people. Don't be crazy. Don't be impatient. I wasn't impatient. Well, yes, I was, because that's what just happened, and I told you that's what happened. I was impatient to get that hump out of there because I didn't make sure that it was flush when I started sanding, and I got impatient when I was sanding, get it down so we could keep going, and this is what happened, right? So I'm going to look. You can't see it from there, but from when you're sitting behind it, you can look and see the profile of where it's touching on your bushing, and we're looking good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a good 15 minutes to make sure that it's really set up in there because, yeah, I use the accelerator, but that's surface stuff. I'm still pushing it and my fingerprint's still getting in it, and it's not just because of the dust on my hands. So I want to make sure it's really adhering to my tube underneath there. And don't worry, it might have a little bit of stick to this bushing, but the way the bushings are made, it'll come off pretty easy. So I'll be right back. Okie dokie. So as you can see, this is dried. So now we're going to do it at an 80 so that we can just get it down fairly quickly. And we're not going to do a lot of pressure because we don't want it to pop again like it did before. And then we'll go up to 600, which is what I like to do. Everybody does that. I do because I'm me. As you can see, I'm just concentrate on that area because I've already done the rest of this. Ooh, you got to smell it. I'm just filling it as it goes to make sure. And I can actually see the shadow of it, so I don't really need to touch it, but I still am. Okay, you can't see it, but right here it still pops up a little bit. So I'm going to try to take it easy on the rest of it and just kind of get that a little bit down more. What I can do though, and this is why I chose that black, because it really blends in really well with it. So let's continue. These are still good, so I reuse. I know a lot of people, after they get that first initial, sanding down, will stop it and they'll, go across it to get out all these lines. But if you sand it really well, with the remaining grits, you don't need to do all that and waste your time. It's just extra work. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you want to, go ahead, but I ain't doing it. All I'm doing is walking up the ladder of the grits. A lot of people would stop at that one. That's a 240. I said, not me. I am going to go all the way up to 6. And I can hear you. I can hear some of you. Yeah, Brady, but look, there's still those lines. Yes, there is. However, you don't stop finishing your pen after the sanding, do you? Mm-mm. You bet your sweet boopy you do not. You will continue with all these other steps. And then I want you to say, Brandy, there's still lines when we're done. They are. Right now, I'm using alcohol to clean off any excess sand dust, denatured alcohol for people who like to be precise, or mineral spirits, or whatever you prefer. It's called mineral spirits. And if it's not, come at me, tell me. All right. Catch me outside. All right. Now we're going to use Triple E. I don't know what order you do it in. I don't know what order the rest of the free world who does these things do it in. This is the order Brandy does it in. So this is how we do it. This is how we're going to film it, because this is what Brandy does. And in case you didn't catch it, I'm Brady. So I rub it on there. I just turn the wheel manually. I'm going to turn down the speed of the wheel. I'm turning it down so it doesn't fling this all over me while I'm trying to get this in there. I think you should just keep your comments to yourself if your name is Matt. So, and now I'm going to speed it up because you want some friction in there. You want some of the heat so that it really gets in there. You'll be able to feel it in your fingers. You know, when it's going so fast that it's so hot that it tears apart your rag, because then your rag becomes part of your pen and you're going to have to start some sanding again, and we don't want to do that. We just went through all that problems before. We're not going to do it again. what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have all of it off. So when you can do this, and this is clean, um, then you move on to the next step. Yeah, it's not clear. We're not talking about Matt's favorite color here. And the rag is clean. You just put a little pressure on there. I've got it going like 11:30. See? I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. I say just a little bit. It's now like 1640, so I sped it up a lot. But this is really just to assist me. Still, it's good. Turn that back down. Because everybody's got their thing. I just don't want to have to do this, give it more than is absolutely necessary to get the results that we want. So I then bring out this block polishing wax. I'm sure somebody knows what it's actually called. He's a little upset because he's watching some kind of video. I messed him up. Anyway, we're going to do the same thing over here as we did before with the triple E. We're going to get it in there. And then we're going to up the speed. Get some friction, some heat. You feel it in your fingers. And then I bring this one, which is another polishing compound. I forget what kind, obviously. But it's my favorite. I think the white works really well. Yes. Works really well for right before that last polish or shine that I put on it. I like to, these are shop towels. It's like the size of a regular paper towel. And I just like to rip them into pieces, like 8 of them. So goes further. I don't need a big towel per thing I'm doing. It's wasteful. All right, now at this point, there's lots of things you can use on a finish, but this is uh, acrylic. Not acrylic. Schools of moi. It's resin. So I just like lacquer, the glossy kind, because I like it shiny. If it was wood, I would use something different, but we're not doing a wood pin. We're doing this. We're doing resin. So, just so you can all see, here's what it looks like after we've done everything else. And now I'm going to let this dry for a good 5 minutes before I come back and put on another layer. But I'm going to stop it and let you see. And now here's what it looks like. Yeah, told you so. It's beautiful. And whatever fashion you prefer to assemble your pen, you are going to lay out your parts. And I'm doing it over here on top of my lathe. And you're going to follow the instructions that either come with your pen kit or will be located on the website where you purchased your pen kit. This one is a Chic Line V2 Twist Pen Kit Gunmetal. I tend to pick which pen's going to go with each blank just on how the colors really flow together. I've actually been known to purchase a pen based off a blank we have here in the shop because I want to use it, but I don't have the one I want.
So you can start with the first, the front of the pin or the back of the pin. That's completely your call. I am going to start with the front of the pin. In this particular case, this will be pushed in, or you can drop it like I did. Either way, your call. It's going to be pushed in till this is flush with this. So, and just be very gentle. This is not a race. You can mess up your pen. You can mess up your blank here and have to start all over. Trust me, it's happened. All right. Now that is pushed in there. You'll push in the tip, which in this case I probably should have done first, but I didn't. So, welcome to Brandy's La La Land. This particular one has a hole, so that's why I'm doing it here, so that the tip can go in there and it doesn't get scratched. So, just going to gently do it to it. Okay, so here's what happened. I screwed up. I put in the twisting mechanism part in first when I should have put the tip of the pin in first. So that just caused all kinds of issues here. So luckily I've got another pin kit just like it. So this is now my pin. It will now become part of my personal collection. Because to get that out, it took a lot of maneuvering. And as you can see, it's messed this up. So I'm going to sand this down just a little bit just to get a nice smoother edge. And then we're going to start with the tip. We're going to start with the tip. So give me a sec. Okay. So for this particular edition, this is the best we're going to do. We'll be okay. Like I said, I'm using it for me at this point, so I'll survive it. I'm really rough on pens anyway, so I drop them. So it's probably best. All right. So I don't mind that that's still kind of tucked in there like that. Because now, at this point, this is when the turning mechanism goes in. Okay? And still, once again, this line, flush. Well, you see how that slaves here? These things happen, people. Gotta go with the flow. Alright, what I like to do, though, is to make sure that that's in deep enough and at a good spot. So I go ahead and put this in there and check for when I close it that it's not coming out. And then when I open it, it's got plenty of space. In this case, I can just go ahead and leave that in there. Because now, what we're going to do is we're going to put the cap on this end. And while I was trying to get that out, this chipped. So, once again, it was going to be mine anyway. So I'm just going to cover the imperfections, which you can too, with a clip. Don't be afraid. It's all learning. Been doing this for a minute, but I still mess up. I still mess it up. I'm so love this pen. Okay. And then next, you're going to take this part and slide it over that, because this is what's going to make these meet together. Now, had I not messed it up, this would be flush. It's not now because I had to sand it down a little bit. And look, I'm not perfect, but it's still a pretty pen. And because this got dulled up with my dirty hands trying to get it off, what I'll do is I'll get some more of this, and I'll go ahead and rip it into my squares so that I don't waste this, which is exactly what happens if you just try to use a whole square, the whole piece of paper. So don't do that. Look, 2. Oh, rip it one more time. 4. Go to the next piece. In this case, it's a 2-ply, so it might as well be 16, but I'm not going to do that. Let's pretend like it's 8. There. 6. 8. And then I'll go over here, and Matt makes up wax that I keep in this huge jar for just such occasions. And I'll take one of our 8 squares, and I'll just get a little bit on there. Just a little bit, you don't need a lot. And just gonna kind of buff it in there. And what I normally do is, if I've dirtied it up a lot, which I have because I was trying to fix my mistake, I would let it just sit overnight. But this is for Brandy's personal collection now, so you don't have to let it sit overnight. But yes, it does come apart because that's how you replace the ink, the pen. So see, this is where we had to put in the glue. Matches. If you didn't know, you wouldn't see it. But look how pretty the colors are, though, which is really what we were trying to, what's the word? Showcase. Thank you. But for something that's going to be my own personal pen, I'm going to use it for work, I think we did good. Most of them really turn out better than this, but mistakes happen, and I'm kind of glad we did it because, as you can see, mistakes happen. This is not, I'm not Miss Perfection. Not here in the shop anyway. Everywhere else I am, but not in the shop. Because I'm still learning every day, but those are still some beautiful colors from Eye Candy. Anyway, thanks for watching my craziness, better known as just my personality. So, thanks.